So here we are in Venice. This is Marco Villenius, traveling futurist, and this time we are exploring the Venice, magnificent Venice, which has such a bold history and maybe quite interesting future as well. So, here we are in Venice. Venice is a very particular city because it's not just a city with a long past, but it's actually a city with magnificent past. It used to be the most wealthiest, the most impactful city, and in fact state of all of the Europe for 5 centuries. And not only that, it was one of the most important trade hubs for that time that extended from 1800 to Middle Ages. In those days, Venice started to expand its impact as far as to the Far East, where the trading came more important across the borders, across the continents, as Europeans started to demand things like silk. There was no production then, as there is no production today, but the European nobility loved that material that was exported. Besides silk, there was also spices, saffron for instance, and all other exotic spices that came again from the different parts of the Asian world. And with that, it became a hub. The Venice became such an important place because from here all these materials were delivered throughout the different corners of the Europe, whereas the Europe provided all kinds of materials from furs to timber, metal, gadgets, and so forth. And so this position as a trading hub made Venice a very special thing. The second aspect that Venice created was the very fact that it was a republic, and it was run by the complex governance system that was the first of its kind. On the top of that system was the Doge, the Duke, but below the Duke there was a nobility that divided their power into the different functions, and that alleviated the pain which came from the fact that in the typical monarchies of the time there was a huge power that the monarchies exerted, and with a good monarch everything went well, with a bad monarch everything went down the drain. But this was not so in Venice. This governance system was far ahead of its time and ensured that this incredible amount of time, 500 years, Venice was the wealthiest corner of this world. The third aspect of why Venice became so rich was that simply the geological position. Because that position that Venice is, which is right on the corner of Europe, leaning towards the Asia, having the Mediterranean just in the front, and at the same time being an island and being well protected from immediate threats, make the Venice also as an optimum location for this type of the crossovering from Europe to Asia. Together with this rather aggressive policy that the Venice was exerting by occupying lands around the Venice, it was able to establish the type of the power that was able to sustain for many, many centuries. And it was actually fortified by the fact that it was the Venice who invented the ambassador system. Here you see some of the peculiarities of the Venice. At the heart of the Venice, which is this island, we don't have any roads for cars to travel. The only roads that we have are these channels, and the boats are the cars of the Venice. This is the way everything is transported from human to different materials, gadgets and so forth. Everything goes along these channels by boats. And that's quite particular because when you have the system like that, you don't have the usual noise and the hum of the drum of the cars. But most of the time, not right now, because they are working here with this machinery, but most of the time you don't hear much of this typical type of additional kind of a noise that comes in the cities because of the cars. So it's quite actually peaceful here in Venice for the most of the time, apart that there is a huge amount of tourists, of course, but no cars. And I must say that I'm not the only one who says that, well, your soul breathes here in a different way just because of that.
Are you good in Italian? Parlo italiano?
Parlo italiano, non parlo italiano, but actually everybody talks Italian a little bit. When you tell him about this, no, we can all talk Italian because a lot of that happens with your hands all the time. You have a kind of a double way of talking to whatever is needed to talk. Oh, I know a couple. My mother language is Finnish. Markku puhuu nyt suomea. It's a very difficult language. But then of course I learned some Swedish as well because all the Finns learn some Swedish in their school. In addition to which I have a lot of relatives that has Swedish as their mother tongue. Then comes English, which I have learned to talk a little bit and use it for different purposes. There is German. Ich spreche Deutsch. Ich bin in Deutschland gewesen. And the German is also something that comes partly from the school, partly from the background. And of course, Germany in Europe is a very important kind of an influencer, particularly in the northern part of Europe. And then there are some other languages like French and Spanish that I know very little, but I know something about them. But my real wish is one day to speak fluent Italian. And now we are in Venice. Parla italiano.
Che bien.
Oh, che bien. Well, I mean, we are in the crisis already, so it's not a question whether it's going to happen, but maybe it's a question of how it is going to escalate. What are the types of surprises that are waiting for us in this year? Because in every year there are going to be a lot of surprises that we're not expecting. At least most of us are not expecting. And one of that type of a situation might occur that now we very much think that this is the kind of war that will continue to linger and actually push down the economies around the world. We've seen what has been happening. So all the markets, all the economic activities very much slowed down because of this war. And also there have been severe food shortages and all that type of stuff. So there has been a lot of escalation. But on the other hand, once this pressure comes from the war, once it suddenly ceases, and it seems like there are much more chances now that Putin's regime is coming to an unexpected end, so to say, then that would have this kind of an interesting trigger effect for the whole global economies.
Maybe we should make a YouTube about crack.
Yeah, I think it would make sense, yeah. Buongiorno. Grazie.
Eccoci qua, caffè latte.
Oh,
Oh, ecco qua.
oh la la, oh la la, oh la la. Che
Prego.
bonito.
Grazie.
Grazie mille.